For years, people have been making jokes. Where's my flying car? I want my flying car. Well, Baby Yoda and I are here to tell you they've arrived. I'm Detroit Free Press auto critic Mark Phelan at Detroit City Airport, where we have got a display of some of the flying cars that are at this year's Detroit Auto Show.
You heard that right. Flying cars in the Motor City. Mark on Thursday got to take a seat on one that looks like a cross between a giant black drone and a jet ski. It's a hoverbike, and as a fan of the Disney Plus series The Mandalorian, he really did take a Baby Yoda toy to mark the occasion.
This is the X Turismo by a company called Airwinds. It's going to be on sale in the United States next year for a small fortune, $777,000.
It's part of a new element of the North American International Auto Show, air mobility. There's hoverboards, a jet suit, and flying vehicles on display.
The operating ceiling is 50 or 60 feet, but most of the time, the designers expect people to be cruising around at about 13 feet off the ground. Top speed is about 80 miles an hour, and there's enough fuel and battery charge to operate for about an hour.
So, have all our favorite sci-fi movies come true? Is this our future? I'm Kerry Jr. II, and on this episode of On the Line, we join Mark Phelan and look to the skies during a very different auto show.
Can I do a Mandalorian kind of joke?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Mark Phelan with the Detroit Free Press, and that is the way.
Kerry Jr. here at the auto show, just walking around, perusing to see what displays they have here. Awesome, Mark. So it is the North American International Auto Show this weekend. Any first impressions after walking in?
Well, first of all, it's just great that the auto show is happening again. It's been 3.5 years since we've had an auto show. The last one was January of 2019, because that was when they announced they were going to move it from the winter to the summer or fall. And then COVID happened. So it's great. And there's so many changes in terms of the fact that they've got things going on outside. Like they've got this giant rubber duck in front of the building that it's just got a different feel, and I think it's going to be very engaging for the people who come.
Now, I was going to bring that up about outside because I saw that they were going to have some outdoor things, but then when I walked in, I was like, wait, where is well, I did see the hoverbike outside. We'll get to that. And then I did see the giant duck.
They've got some stuff outside. They've got this huge rubber duck, which apparently has become a thing for Jeep owners to put ducks on their vehicles. They've got some other things. And down at Hart Plaza, as well as the introduction of the new Mustang, they've got, during public days, they're going to have electric Bigfoot trucks crushing old jalopies.
Okay, so Bigfoot trucks?
Yeah, monster trucks. You see?
Oh, okay, monster trucks, got you.
This Sunday at Ford Field, monster trucks. So I think some of them they call Bigfoots as well. I'm not sure, but yeah, electric monster trucks crushing old broken down cars. It's sort of fun that they're actually making one of these that's electric powered now.
A monster truck that's electric powered?
How cool is that?
Oh wow!
Yeah,
they're really moving forward with this electric
thing.
And
it kind of fits in with the whole theme of the show because there's so many new electric vehicles here. Half of the semifinalists for North American Car and Truck of the Year are electric. They've got the electric flying vehicles. Mm-hmm. The electric monster truck just seems kind of like a natural, and it's going to be at Hart Plaza. Plus, they're going to have food trucks.
And then, of course, we've been planning to cover this event, having our schedules together, finding where we're going to go, what the beats we're going to hit. And, of course, we run into, I think the big spectacle of the president being arriving and speaking.
I was actually standing by when the Beast, the presidential limousine, pulled out. From what I hear, he loves cars.
Just looking at them and driving them, they just give me a sense of optimism, although I like the speed, too.
He checked out all the electric vehicles and apparently spent a lot of time with the Corvette, which isn't electric, but he loves Corvettes. Okay. He's got an old one himself.
And then what is kind of the auto show's overall purpose? So why does it exist for itself? What does it do for the industry?
Oh, basically, the auto shows exist to sell cars, first and foremost. That's the reason that it used to be in the winter, because January is a kind of a dead time for dealers. Nobody wants to be walking around a dealer's lot in snow and slush. Car companies want a little bit more out of auto shows than they used to. It used to just be let the person see the car, walk around it, decide this is the one I want. But now there's so many new technologies that they want people to be able to experience them. So they've got some hands-free driving. They've got safety systems that will warn you about pedestrians in front of you. They've got electric vehicles, and these are all new and people haven't experienced them before. So that's why there's test drives out on some of the riverfront streets in Detroit where people can take and drive one of these new vehicles. And also SUVs have become so popular, and most people have never driven up a 40-degree slope in an SUV. They have no idea what it feels like. They don't understand why some people love doing that kind of thing. So it used to be just go to the show and see the vehicle, but as people got better and better at doing research online, so that they can see the vehicle, they can check out all of the features online. Car companies wanted auto shows to offer something more. That's what they're hoping. Moving to these dates when it's easier to do things outdoors will achieve.
So a lot of what we've been talking about is what mobility is on the ground. But what I'm really interested in seeing, because when I walked in there today, and you will see, are these planes. There's propellers. There's this air mobility sector of the auto show. Not large, but it's new, I understand, right?
It is brand new. There have never been any, to my knowledge, flying cars at the Detroit show before, and certainly none that you could buy, none that worked. People have talked about flying cars forever. It became a joke. Where's my flying car? We're finally getting flying cars. I mean, we've got electric-powered, flying vehicles, but they don't look like a car necessarily, but you can, a normal person can get in one and fly from place to place. There's a hover bike. There's a seaplane, a plane that can land on the water as well as on land, and there's others.
Paul Nyhart, I director of marketing for Icon.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this. What's the make? What's the model? What is this called?
Yeah, so this is an Icon A5.
Okay.
It's an amphibious aircraft with land capabilities and water capabilities. And in order to fly it, you need a minimum of sport pilot license.
Okay, a
lot of people see it and they're like, is this a car? Is it a boat? Is it a jet ski?
This is one of the things that's been kind of the stuff of science fiction for decades, and it looks like it's finally happening. Yeah. The battery technology has gotten better, and there are people who think that it's unrealistic. But I honestly expect that we're going to see it, take off for recreational purposes in kind of the same way that you see snowmobiles and ATVs. Not everybody
hobby kind of.
Yeah, not everybody owns one, but people have them and they use them for some things. So there are some economic forecasts that say it's going to be many billions of dollars annual market for electric flying cars.
After the break, where flying vehicles may pop up in the future, how soon we'll get there, and what the critics say. And we're back talking with Free Press auto columnist and critic Mark Phelan about flying cars at this year's Detroit Auto Show. How long have these vehicles been around? How long has air mobility really been around? Or like these specific types of vehicles, hover bikes and these seaplanes?
This is a very new development. In part because batteries are getting better. Electric batteries are getting lighter and more powerful. It used to be that it was just completely impossible thinking of having an electric car that could carry 3 or 4 people that would be able to go more than maybe a mile or so. But just like electric vehicles have got longer ranges and can go faster now, the same technologies are working in favor of electric aircraft. So that's one of the biggest differences. And like a lot of other things too, electronic controls make it easier. I mean, there will be a lot, I'm sure, of electronic systems built in to keep these things stable and even, so that you don't have to be as skilled as the pilot of a small aircraft is to make sure that when you're landing you're actually level rather than being tipped to one side or the other, that kind of thing.
Making it so that it's a little bit more user-friendly for the casual flyer.
Making it simpler.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, I see, making it simpler. So what does that mean that these air mobility vehicles are in the auto show? Does the auto show, embracing these vehicles mean something about the future of our mobility overall?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, the auto show knows that this is a growing area. They've got 5 or 6, personal flying, vehicles. If they don't have at least 10 at the next auto show, they're going to be very disappointed, because they think this is an area that is going to grow, and they think that it's an area that is consistent with a lot of the development that's going on in terms of electric power and electric motors at car companies. So there's going to be more overlap with it.
The idea isn't just to create zero emissions vehicles.
That's Paul Neihart again, the director of communications with Icon Aircraft.
The idea is to get people traveling in newer environments. And let's be clear, I mean, this aircraft is for fun, it's for adventure, but fundamentally it is introducing people to new airspace, right? It's getting people off the ground and into the air. Yes, for fun, for adventure, but in 5 to 10 years, again, we're trying to offer people a preview of what mobility will look like. This is making flying less intimidating, because flying will be probably for less just adventure and fun. It'll just be a more convenient way to travel. And this isn't electric, right? But this is a very low fuel burn. So this is probably one of the most, environmentally friendly way of introducing people to the air right now.
My hesitation with flying vehicles is I'm imagining the Jetsons, honestly, like this flying traffic in the air. I would, at that stage, I'm comfortable seeing a lot of different flying vehicles in the air. But right now, if I were to see a flying vehicle, I'd be like, okay, how are you communicating with the commercial airlines that are in the air, the helicopters that are flying? I'm always concerned about that. Do you have any insight on what they may say about how they're going to handle that?
It's a brilliant question, and one of the big questions has been, is this a completely unregulated space?
Right.
And the early appearance is that, one, people will have to have a license. So it's not going to be like a boat where you can. I still can't believe people can have a 600 horsepower boat and they've never had to take a class in boating. This will require a license, and my understanding is that the FAA is going to make it relatively easy for people to get licenses for flying cars, but they will be limited in what altitudes they can get to. So you can't, get into the, altitudes where you're worried about running into, a hospital helicopter or even or an airliner. And there will be areas where you can't use them. So there's a regulatory framework that's taking place, that's taking shape, and I think that will answer a lot of those questions.
I'm excited to show you this one, because it's just a really cool setup they have over here of this giant drone. In your time here, you might be,
That's cool.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. The lights and everything. I feel like I'm walking into the set of a Transformers movie.
I don't consider myself a car enthusiast, but as I've walked through the show, I was thinking, it's interesting to see, not necessarily like, oh, I love cars or the car's capabilities, but seeing where we're moving as a society in terms of transportation, right? Seeing all of what the future may look like.
Tim Paolini. I'm with Airspace Experience Technologies, or ASX for short. We're really looking to elevate traffic, right? So getting cars off the road, semi-trucks off the road, and elevating it. Like, we have the big blue sky to utilize, and what we're thinking is it's going to cut down on noise pollution, just pollution in general. And by going fully electric, it's just, no emissions, clean energy. And now you're talking about straight line distance versus going through windy roads and under tunnels or bridges and stuff like that.
Excuse me, real quick question. In terms of the most immediate usage of this vehicle, is it going to be used for commercial transportation or mostly logistical reasons?
Probably not immediately.
Right.
So there are basically 3 segments to commercialization.
Okay.
The first segment is bespoke operations, so like firefighting, emergency response, stuff like that. And then our hope, once we get type certification, which will enable us to sell to the market of commercial air cargo.
What's the timeline for something like that?
So we're hoping our initial unmanned production and optional manned prototypes will be production ready and ready to certify by 2025.
Sorry, 2025, did you say? That's pretty good.
Can I get your name?
Connor Hughes.
Okay, thank you very much, Connor. And what is your role here with ASX?
So I'm the director of propulsion controls, basically responsible for all the flight management systems and programming of the vehicle.
That's awesome. Is there anything to be said about, aircraft that aren't necessarily made for people, but also just other types of uses and mobility that this show is embracing, and what might be the future of air mobility?
I don't think there's any doubt that we're going to see a lot of aircraft used for local deliveries in the near future. Some of that, will be drones that are not unlike the drones that people, fly now, with cameras and things like that. But we're definitely going to see, a lot of that going forward. I think, and that ties into another of the big trends in the auto industry, because if you can have those small enough that you don't have to have a pilot, it's fully autonomous. That's the same thing that car companies are trying to develop in terms of autonomous business vehicles, flower delivery trucks, Amazon, things like that, or even long haul trucks, that are autonomous and self-driven. So that's another area where the technology, the same technology, will be useful for both aircraft and land vehicles.
So this definitely catapults you to the future. It's like, it's experiential. It's like, this is where we're headed in terms of transportation.
Yeah.
I have one final question.
Yes.
I'm curious what critics might say, not necessarily of the auto show, but about launching into EV, launching into these aircraft vehicles. What do they usually say when it comes to this? What's the hesitation there?
Well, honestly, it's a small enough niche that the critics haven't really focused on it much yet. But the first thing they'll say is it's just for the super rich, and that's a perfectly fair complaint. So is having a private plane. But there are some people who choose to do it, and why not let them? So I think it's just a matter of choice.
This is like 10 years away?
Yeah, very possibly, maybe even less.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. Well, thanks, Mark.
My pleasure.
Before we go, one more thing. Listeners may not know this, but Mark actually helped us name our show. On the Line is a nod to the big stories happening and what's at stake every week, but it's also reminiscent of our Motor City roots and the automotive assembly lines that started here. So a big thank you goes out to Mark Phelan. Also thanks to picture editor Kelly Jordan, who recorded that audio with Mark at the top of the episode. All right, as always, this episode was produced by me and Darcy Moran. Our executive producers are Anjanette Delgado and Marianne Struman. Editor is Peter Bhatia. The music for the show is made by DJ Lost Boy. It is called Fort Trumbull. Thank you as always for listening. And if you like the show, please share it with the folks you spend time with, your friends, your family. And don't forget to subscribe, like the show, and come back next week. See you then.